Beal.
Here.
Councilman Bettina.
Here.
Councilman Phillips. Here. Councilman Casella.
Here.
And Supervisor Cosey.
Here. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. The first item on the agenda is related to the agenda itself. And before we have a motion, I'd like to add a resolution, and Mr. Casella will talk about it later when we get to the resolutions, but add a resolution for a street light timer out at Robinson, and that's in the amount of $2,990 some dollars. So does everybody agree we have a motion to amend the agenda?
I'll make a motion to agenda.
Okay. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. So the next item then will be adopt the agenda as amended.
So we actually, before we do that, I think we have one more resolution we need to talk about for the courts.
Well, that's on the agenda later on.
Is it? 'Cause
Yeah,
I didn't see there was I didn't see a resolution
It's,
number on that.
no, it's items for special consideration, new
Okay.
business. At the time, you know, we have actually 3 resolutions there.
Okay.
At the time, the way it works is when, you know, by the time this is ready to go out, if a resolution is not submitted to the clerk, then it goes in under items for special consideration. So it is here.
I just wanted to make sure, because time's of the
No,
essence here,
it's-
so it has to be done by
I'm-
October 7th, so I just
Yeah,
want to
no,
make
I
sure we
made sure
include
it's
it.
on here. So,
Okay,
and we
excellent.
have the 2 others that I, you know, wanted to have on
Great, thank you.
special things. So is there a motion to, we have a motion to, and it's seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is a motion to acknowledge the minutes from the previous meeting of September 13th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So I'll do my, you know, supervisor's comments, you know, up at this point in time. You know, normally, that's where we have it before the public portion. So, you know, first and foremost, the most important, Joe Dengler is here tonight. And we as board, and I'm sure other board members will also have other comments, but we are here fully to support you. You know, are saddened, of course, by the passing of Bill. And as you notice, next to you, we have a memorial chair, you know, for Bill that Joey put together, you know, for this. But since you two and Dick, you know, are always came to meetings, even predating me in this position, you know, he's part of the family. You're part of the family, and we're, you know, again, happy that we had the chance to get to know him and to work with him and be a strong, dedicated supporter for the town of Wappinger, all that's been done. In the future, we will, you know, do some other things, but I think that the board tonight just wanted to extend our deepest sympathies, but also appreciation for all that you guys do. So thank you. Anybody else like to say something?
He was truly a gentleman. I always enjoyed talking to him, and just made me smile all the time. He really, really did.
So we're here.
We're blessed.
You know, we're here for you if you need anything, you know, as always. And so, you know, we'll be, you know, I think, considering other things. So we've, unfortunately, and if you look at the picture, you know, nice in memory of Bill, you know, we've, you know, unfortunately, you know, have lost a number of dear friends over this period of time. All of us have been affected in many ways, and not just COVID, but it's been, I think, the stress and strain on everyone has added to it. The inability of people, and I'm not talking about in this case, to get the proper hospital treatment and everything else has been very, very stressful. And so this just adds to, you know, the burdens that we all, you know, share, you know, during this time. And hopefully we will continue to come out of the fog of COVID and everything that's brought with it. Transitioning to that, I wanted to comment that today Bill and I, participated in the county executives, now I guess bi-weekly, meeting that we have, that we had on a weekly basis throughout COVID. And the, somewhat good news, guardedly optimistic, is that for us in the county, we are seeing some downward trends. Not sure if that's a complete, trend yet when it comes to, COVID. The number of active cases has been declining. We're at 660 active cases in the county. 23 hospitalizations, still too high, and I think the county executive said that we're looking at on an average of 40 people coming into the hospital at any one time. So the virus is still impacting where it's been having the impact, and unfortunately, we've had a number of deaths that have happened over the summer months, and now it's risen up to the number of 490. And I won't go through the numbers, but I'll ask Joey to post them. Is that the county is doing a pretty good analysis of who is passing away, succumbing, who is getting it, in what categories, and vaccination or not vaccinated, and still the overwhelming majority are either no vaccination or one dose. The county's 7-day average is right now running in the 3.5% range. So that's come down from the 5% range. So the efforts that have been ongoing to get vaccinations in our county, the efforts of, at least I know, our school district to make sure it stays on top of it, have been resulting in a number of, I think, positive impacts. So we still believe, and my son, who is a medical doctor, and I think everybody around us, believes that vaccination still remains the best defense against hospitalization and death. Everybody has free choice as to what to do, or most people do. But I for one believe very strongly, in my years of experience, what we've done also in COVID here in the town with masks and other things has resulted in a very, very few cases for us. So I continue to encourage everybody to go and get vaccinated. Wear your mask where you can. I would still wear it fairly regularly. So please do that. Other topic that we discussed today, and then after he talks, I have one more topic two more items actually, but we had a discussion about FEMA and FEMA reimbursements. Councilman Beal is kind of leading the charge with the county executive and with his boss, Dana Smith, and the commissioner and others. But Bill, why don't you just summarize for our friends here tonight, but also for our town audience, with respect to where FEMA is right now on reimbursements.
So with respect to Hurricane Ida, the remnants of Hurricane Ida, Dutchess County has been impacted significantly on the public side and on the private side. So within the capacity of my day job, I'm the emergency manager for the county. Our position has been we need to get FEMA boots on the ground here in the county so that we can make sure that they see some of the damages that we have suffered in this county. On the public side, they call it PA, Public Assistance side, which is for publicly owned property. We had a threshold that we needed to meet of $1.157 million in damage, which we were able to meet. There have been some significant culverts and bridges that were impacted in southern Dutchess County that got us over the limit. What does that mean for Wappinger? Well, since we met the threshold, we received the declaration last week for PA, which means that Dutchess County has been added to the presidential declaration, which allows for public entities such as towns, villages, and cities, and public districts, as well as other authorities within Dutchess County and other categories as well, to recoup costs associated with the remnants of Hurricane Ida. So, for example, municipalities that have suffered infrastructure loss, municipalities that have suffered town-owned or city or village-owned property loss, which we have, overtime that was committed to mitigate the effects of this disaster. Now, any municipality in Dutchess County is eligible to work with FEMA to potentially recoup those costs. So that has been achieved, and I know the town of Wappinger is working with our comptroller and our highway superintendent and our director of buildings and grounds to be sure that we have those itemized properly. On the other side is called IA, individual assistance. That's private property. That's also a concern because in Dutchess County, there's a number of private property owners that have suffered significant loss from this as well. The IA declaration is a little more complicated because there's no dollar figure or threshold. It has to do with geographic damage. It has to do with certain levels of underinsured versus non-insured properties. We're continuing to work with FEMA, and I'll have them back out here on the street again this week, looking at property loss in Dutchess County as a whole, so that we hopefully can get an IA declaration. That means that folks in the town of Wappinger that suffered significant losses from this storm can submit their expenses to FEMA for at least partial reimbursement, and that's what our position is in Dutchess County. The third category is called SBA. It's Small Business Administration, and that has to do with not really in the town of Wappinger, however, in the village of Fishkill, those of you that are familiar with the flooding that occurred on Elm Street, which is next to Taco Bell and adjacent to Wendy's, right off of Route 9. They had 5 feet of water through those businesses. So I had FEMA down there last week looking at it. There is a formula that has to be met in order to be qualified for SBA, and it has to do with X number of properties times 40% uninsured. There's a whole thing. We're working to try to assist those businesses. And by getting that type of assistance for the village of Fishkill, it would allow for businesses in the town and village of Wappingers to perhaps submit expenses that they had as well. So we're working on a county level on behalf of all the towns, villages, and cities. It's not going to be a definitive process moving forward. We do have the PA declaration, but the IA and SBA we're still working on each and every day.
Thank you, Bill. Much appreciated. So, for those that have been submitting claims and they're not forgotten, I think we have over, 300, for the county, right
Yes.
now?
So
Individual claims.
if you're an individual here in the meeting, or if you're watching this meeting and you have suffered damage from the remnants of Hurricane Ida, we encourage you to go to the county website. There is a disaster portal where you can submit your loss information into the portal. I receive that on a daily basis. I submit it to my contacts at the state, who share it with FEMA so we can evaluate where the geographic impacts are. It's at dutchessny.gov.
Is there a deadline by any chance that says when people have to submit by so they're, eligible for a reimbursement?
We really need to get that in by the end of the week, because the 30-day window takes effect from the declaration, the initial declaration, which was September 5th. So I need this stuff before October 5th. I'm telling people to get it in by the end of this week so that I have time to make sure it's submitted properly. There are some potential extensions to that deadline, but I'm not taking a chance with that. We
Right.
want to have everything into that first 30-day window.
So I know we have it on the town website as it is today, but is there another way we can blast it on the TV so that we can, channel 22, whatever it is, so that people can know that
Yeah.
October 1st is when you want it by, even though it's October 5th?
Yeah. So
Because I don't
mean,
think a lot of people know there's a deadline on this, and so I just want to make sure everybody's got an opportunity to get potentially reimbursed.
I would say at this point, right now, go to dutchessny.gov. We can probably create a billboard to put up on the Facebook page and on the cable channel. But folks need to submit now. There's about 290 submissions, and that's for that portal is for private property. They're really looking for living space impacts. If you don't have a finished base, if you had 2 inches of water in your unfinished basement, that's not going to qualify. But if you have a finished basement that could be considered living quarters and it was impacted by this, they're going to look at that. So just go to dutchessny.gov, fill out that form. It's basically a Survey Monkey. Fill it out. It'll automatically get submitted into a spreadsheet, which I receive each morning.
If anybody needs help, call the county. They'll help you fill this out.
You can call the county executive's office. If you don't have computer access, you can call the 486-2000, which is the county executive's office, and they'll be happy to assist you.
That's important to know that.
Okay. Thanks. Any other comment? Good. Well, thanks, Bill. Thanks for
Thanks, Bill.
that overview, and thanks for all the hard work you've been doing.
Thank you.
I want to just remind everyone that's here and watching that we have our community day called Carnival. That's coming up shortly, very quickly, actually in 2 weeks time. That's on October 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, 11th being Columbus Day. So we're, doing a lot of advertising, a lot of information on the websites as to the full, 4 days of events. But just again, brief summary. On Friday night, the 8th, there'll be bonfire, professionally done, and some events around that. Also, the rides, we have a very strong professional ride company, McDaniel Brothers, out of New Jersey, that is going to be running those rides. On Saturday, is our Community Day Parade, starting, the actually assembly is around 1 o'clock at the office buildings, Lardell, area. That's where Dutchess Community College used to have its classrooms. And then the kickoff for the step-off, I guess is what they call it for parades, will be at 2 o'clock. Then we will have also fireworks on Sunday, rides during both of these days, and other events, throughout the days. Right now, we still have some openings for the parade, so anybody that wants to march, bring a group, bring some sort of displays or actually trucks, what have you, please sign up. Jessica Fulton in our recreation department is taking the reservations for that. So a lot going on. There'll be touch a truck, fire trucks, town trucks, and other vehicles, I believe, for the young at heart. That will also have parking both at New Hackensack, the fire company lots, and also there will be some overflow parking at our friends across the street in the mosque. They have extra flow parking. So that's going to be a very popular week for our friends and actually partners in this at Meadowbrook Farms. I think Bill was out there picking apples.
Yes, I was.
With his son.
I was out there yesterday.
Yeah. So that is a big weekend. So come on out. Have a good time. We'll have a lot going on. The last comment that I would like to make, and apologize, take a few minutes, but as you all know, we've been working with a very conservative budget that also has spent very well monies, including using bond funding quite well. As you know, we've approved several bond issuances during the last few months at our board meetings. A key element of that whole process is a very independent review and rating by basically Standard & Poor's is the rating agency. Most everyone would know that name. And so we just received a very strong rating review by Standard & Poor's that continues to retain the AA+ rating, but also indicated that it could consider, based on some other criteria, raising it. That would mean to a AAA rating. But within the report, which will provide a copy to the town clerk, also post with the minutes, and also post, I think Joey can post it as well. Within the report, not only did they strongly affirm our AA rating, but the comments were that also they have upgraded the management of the town from a strong to a very strong rating. Very strong economy is what their findings are. Again, I think that's working with what we've been doing on the town board, working very closely with the county executive's office and bringing new investment here. So these are their words: very strong economy, a strong financial policies, and very strong budgetary flexibility are among the statements that they're making about our town. Very strong liquidity, very important. Bill will tell us about 2008 and how that was not the case, and we brought it back. They have viewed very positively the comprehensive measures the town has taken to protect itself from emerging risks. This is related to a number of risks in the digital age that we've done. We won't go into those details, but it's here. They cite our strong COVID management, and last but not least, the investments in critical infrastructure, which have also helped us ride through some of the crises, including this last one with Ida, where if we had not spent the monies wisely, we would have seen our well fields washed out. So fortunately, we did this. So, and all the while, we've kept taxes low, actually, lowest among all the municipalities in Southern Dutchess. So I want to thank, the staff, all of our employees at the town for a great job that they're doing. There's a few here, tonight. Also thank the board and our elected officials for the hard work that they have done. So again, maybe give a round of applause to the staff,
Sure.
in consideration.
Of course,
So,
yeah.
Thank you. And Barbara, you're representing the staff, so please tell them how much we appreciate
And
what they're
if I
doing.
can just say, Supervisor, I feel like I've sent this many times in the past, and I have no filter. The silly season has begun. Everybody's out there running for office, making all the statements, throw them out. I've been through this 10 times running for office. My wife asked me why I do this. But we do this for one reason, really. I think I can speak on behalf of my colleagues. We're not doing this for ego reasons. We're not doing this for the money. We're doing this to try to do the right thing for this town. And ultimately, as custodians of this town, I think we have a responsibility, especially during unprecedented times like this, public health emergency. We have to really try to stay ahead of the curve and try to manage the fiscal aspects of this town in a way that's responsible to see us through. And this S&P report I had no knowledge of until about half an hour before this meeting, and if you read through it, it's not just a cover letter. This is an extensive report that looked at our finances and looked at our management and looked at our overall fiduciary responsibility. And I've been here the longest, so I will say that there have been some roller coasters over the years as the economy has fluctuated, right? Especially the 2008 to 2009 period. I remember sitting here wondering how we were going to make payroll, but we did. And since then, over a number of different administrations, I think the philosophy has been similar. We are here for the purposes of making sure this town remains on solid fiscal ground, and this report echoes that. So I thank my colleagues up here for having the same philosophy as we move forward, because right now, we're not, not every municipality is in this position, and there are many municipalities across New York State that are on the verge of bankruptcy. And I would argue that there's a number of variables that can cause that. We've been blessed in this town to have a vibrant economy. We've been blessed in this town to have individuals in a number of capacities that understand the importance of savings and making sure that we have a rainy day fund, because this particular health emergency is not over yet. I think we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. But I remember sitting up here in March of 2020, not wondering if we can't operate the aspects of this town, if we can't create revenue, if we can't have a court, if we can't have building permits, if we can't move forward, how are we going to pay our bills? And luckily, we had enough reserve to create some padding. Now, I think as we see the sales tax revenues come in, we're now in an even better position. So. For folks out there that wonder what happens behind the scenes, it's not a simple process. There is a methodology to this, and I appreciate my colleagues for seeing the same vision.
Thank you. I'm going to make a comment too. So again, being in a AA+ position right now, we are financially in excellent shape here. We plan very conservatively from a COVID perspective, revenues, as Bill said, from both the sales tax and a mortgage tax perspective. And what we're seeing is things are coming in much better than anticipated. So what that does is that will allow us for 2022 to be able to do more things, give some of that money back to the community, which I think is something important. We've done a number of improvements from infrastructure, between roads. Look at the trucks we just purchased, the snowplow trucks we just did, the upgrades we're doing from a highway garage perspective, playgrounds we just put in, and we're still well positioned here. So I think that, again, being very, very conservative, we've, prepared ourselves for next year, and I think that we're going to be able to do a lot more for the town than we did this year. And again, based on the circumstances, we did a really good job because we didn't know what was going to happen with COVID. We didn't know where the revenues were going to come in, et cetera. And so I think this does, put us in an excellent position for 2022 and also the town as a whole. So I want to appreciate the rest of the board here for their fiscal responsibility, working together with me. I'm a financial planner, so this is what I do by trade. But again, we have an excellent team here that have experience. And again, thank you to the rest of the board and for all your help in this. And again, I think we are well positioned for 2022. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor, if I could just say one thing about Bill Dengler. If we can put that picture back up
Sure.
for a second. So, I didn't want to jump in the middle of your report, but Bill would sit there, and I could tell if he didn't agree with something I was saying, and I could also tell when he did agree, right? I only knew him from the context of sitting here and him sitting there. I really didn't know him anywhere else except for the pancake breakfasts, right? So I went back on the messages here, okay, just to give everyone a little perspective on the Dengler opinion, okay? Because he never held back if he didn't agree with something I said. And there were times where I was wrong. I have not always been right sitting here, okay? Let's get that on the record.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been here since my 20s. I'm in my mid-40s now. So obviously, you change a little bit, right? You see things differently. So he would always come up to me after meetings and say, "Yeah, you shouldn't have said that. That was wrong. You'll realize one day that wasn't the right thing to say. But what's funny to me is this message. I just went back here for a second just to see a message from the Denglers here that was from January 26, 2013. Okay, just a little note. This is Joe Dengler from the town board meetings. Bill's here too. About your pancake breakfasts at Houstonville. When we first started going, the pancakes were great. But sadly, this past year, they are not light and fluffy anymore. They are dense and hard. Can you please fix this? We would rather go to Houstonville than Rombout. So again, I appreciate Bill and Joe's support of our town, and thank you for everything, Joe. Obviously, on a serious note, when we found out during the last board meeting. We found out at the board meeting that Bill had passed, and it caught us off guard sitting here, and
Yes.
In a way, I kind of feel a little special that we found out sitting at the dais that he had passed, because at that moment is when, immediately I was, we were trying to adjourn the meeting, and all I'm thinking about is Bill and him sitting here, and I actually said, we all collectively said, I said, Joey, we need to make sure there's a chair sitting there at the next meeting where Bill used to sit, because that's how important Bill was to... Or he was, and I have all those text messages too. I'm not going to read those.
We all do.
What are you doing? Don't vote on this now. This is like real time. Transparent government here, folks. They're sitting at home on TV and sending me Facebook messages of what, don't vote this way. So, but this is an example of what we need more of in this town, right? Joe and Bill, pride and ownership, right? You certainly didn't need to be sitting here at every town board meeting. I mean, I understand you've told me before this was your entertainment. It's kind of like reality television. I get it. It's like better than reality television. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you both are great examples of folks that are proud of your community, took an active role, right, attending all the town board meetings, and some were painful, I will admit, but you stuck it through, and never hesitated to provide us with constructive criticism, no matter what administration it was. I've been here for 5 administrations, and I'm pretty sure this happened over 5 different administrations, but we're going to greatly miss Bill. We need more Bills, right? We need more of those individuals that aren't afraid to wait till the meeting's over and go, hey kid, come here. What are you thinking with that? What are you doing? I appreciate that, and I just want to echo what the supervisor said, Joe. we're here for you. If you need anything, don't hesitate. You have my number. You obviously can text me 24/7. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. You're certainly not shy. Either was Bill. Don't hesitate to reach out. If you're thinking, a month, 2 months down the road, I really, need some assistance with something, any of us would be happy to drop everything and help you.
Absolutely.
Certainly. God bless.
We'll now move to the public portion of our meeting. Do I have a motion to open the public portion, please?
Make the motion.
Second.
A motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. So now, as we've done in the past, anyone that would like to comment on any agenda item, please come up and identify yourself at the podium, please.
Good evening. My name is Philip Jampertone. I'm with the law offices of Lewis and Greer. We represent the owners of 169 Myers Corners Road, the old IBM buildings, where your parade is about to start. I sent a letter August 5th to the supervisor requesting a text amendment change to the zoning code to permit indoor self-storage at one of our buildings at that site. I believe the letter was addressed and there was a general discussion at the August meeting regarding that. And during that discussion, I believe someone had suggested that we come and do a presentation to you. I don't have a formal presentation. I don't know exactly what you're looking for at this stage, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions or concerns. I can give you a little history of
Please
the
do.
building. The building is 225,000 square feet. It's been vacant for nearly 5 years. The last tenant moving out nearly 5 years ago. The rental history of that building is pretty poor. Since our ownership, we've maintained 30 to 40% occupancy up until 4 to 5 years ago when the last tenant moved out. The front building, in contrast, is 282,000 square feet, and even that building is only at 90% occupancy, leaving 28,000 square feet of vacant space. So any tenants that come along would certainly be fit into that 28,000 square feet first before we put it into the back space. The building in the back, 169, has basically been mothballed to keep expenses low. We're seeking to get a text amendment to zoning code. If it permits indoor self-storage, we have a possible tenant that's interested in the space. It should not be a major impact to the town, as there's only 2 properties, we believe, that are zoned COP in the town, and that being the Fairchild property,
Right.
which I think is a Superfund site, and our property, so it wouldn't be a major impact. We believe that the use for indoor self-storage would be less impact than the permitted uses of office space and warehousing. You're familiar with the site. It's accessed by a traffic light for traffic flow and control. It has plenty of parking. If we were to propose any exterior site renovations, that would certainly go through the planning board and require planning board approval. But at this point in time, because we're such a preliminary state, we don't anticipate any exterior modifications. But if we did, it would be possibly a loading dock or building access with an overhead door on the rear of the building, so it would not be a site issue, a sightly issue. This building is shielded by the front building from the street, so any modifications wouldn't be an unsightly modification. So if you have any questions or concerns.
So indoor storage would be residential storage, or what type of storage would it be? Do you know?
At this point, it'd be general indoor self-storage like you would see at
Like
the
climate
Wall
control?
Center.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Climate-controlled
Yeah,
indoor
okay.
self-storage.
Yeah, if you go back in the history on this parcel, the conservation
Right.
office park, is that what it is?
Yeah.
COP?
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a history. If you read about this when it came into town, it was a huge thing. And I think the reason why it was a COP is because that was, the least impact at the time zoning for that particular office complex. But, having it been previously an IBM location, it was Laerdal. I guess Laerdal was one of the tenants that exited 5 years ago, I guess.
No, Laerdal is still there.
Are they
They're in
still-
the
oh, they're in the
building.
front. They're in the front,
They're in
okay.
the front building, yes.
So how much occupancy do they have? Do you know offhand?
The front building is
Yeah.
at 90%.
That's all them?
occupancy. No, there's Cyrus One is a big data center.
Okay, okay,
There's Abilities First.
Yeah.
okay.
There's Ladero. There's a number of smaller tenants
Okay.
as well.
So the front one also previously had Wappinger Central School District in there, or was that the back building? Do you know offhand?
I don't recall Wappingers.
Is that the front
I
one?
think the front building did.
Front would be-
All right, so
Front.
my point is, my position, okay, my personal opinion is, especially in uncertain economic times like this, where, you know, certain types of inventory, commercial inventory in our town are vacant, most notably the strip malls, we need to think outside the box here. And if we have a potential for something to come into an existing property that has less impact than the other uses, we should have no objection to that. My opinion is if it's indoor storage, right, and it's at the rear of the property, it's going to have less impact potentially than some of the activities happening on the property right now, correct?
Yes, we believe so. If we had warehousing with tractor trailers coming
Right.
in and out all day, or even if we had 500 employees, 225,000 square feet, put a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
And that would create much more traffic.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be opposed to this text
So
amendment.
we have the resolution.
That comes up
Resolution
tonight? Okay.
on this.
Resolution's here tonight that I
Excellent.
put on the agenda, so it's the first
124.
agenda item, 124, and what that will do is we would then approve or not, but I agree with you, Bill, to approve it, and then we will set a public hearing date, which will be in October,
Okay?
is the plan, if this
Sure.
gets adopted tonight.
Yeah, I think the public hearing is required under the text, it's a local law, right? Is that what it is?
It's a local law.
Yeah,
Local law,
yeah.
that's right.
So, my personal opinion, I'm going to support this. I'll yield to my colleagues.
How
Let me get
much
to the
of the building are they looking to use, the whole thing, or?
Well, certainly, they wouldn't build out the entire 225,000 square feet. I think it would be phased. I mean, they're still looking for other, occupants. This has
Right, right.
been continuously marketed with large commercial real estate businesses down in the city. It's not really something a local realtor is going to fill. So, but it's been continuously marketed. They're still looking for large
Right.
tenants. It's just that's not the market these days. After
Right.
COVID,
Yep.
tenants in other buildings are negotiating early buyouts because they're all going remote.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, so the traditional office, cubicle type scenario.
That you can't fill 'em.
Right, we're not gonna.
Can't fill them today.
Yeah, yeah, so I understand, so we have to be flexible, I think.
Barbara, do you have any comments you'd like to make? We might as well just have our discussion right now, and then we get to the resolution,
Sure.
move on.
I have no objection.
I think this building has been empty for a long time, and I think in the economic climate, there's too many empty spaces that were once office and retail, and we do have to start, like other towns, looking at what are viable uses going forward to keep these buildings occupied.
And there's nobody really looking at it today, or do you have a potential?
There's no one
Just the,
we have a
tenant.
potential indoor self-storage tenant,
Okay,
but we can't go very far without a zoning
Right.
change.
yep, I get it.
Okay,
Sure.
good. Okay, thanks. You can
Okay.
stay around and see if we have other questions when we get to the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other, questions or comments on it? Are you going to be talking about one of the resolutions, right? Or the same building?
Yes, we're also going to be looking to discuss Resolution 124.
Oh, okay. So might as well just continue with the flow.
figured I'd come on
Okay,
right after.
that's fine. Go ahead.
Sure.
So Dan
Yeah.
Kohler, Hudson Land Design, we've been retained by Pat and Ann Buckley, who are in contract with Mr. Farley to purchase the property at 26 Myers Corners Road, which is currently zoned as conservation commercial. They want to use the house in a residential capacity, single-family residential capacity. The house, actually, would you mind distributing some of these exhibits? So, just so you can understand, previously, it used to be a single-family house. It was rezoned to commercial, conservation commercial from R20 at one point.
Thank you.
And
Right.
we were advised at one point, as we were considering asking for a rezone again, to actually maybe piggyback on the text amendment from COP to also consider a single-family residential use as a principally permitted use within the conservation commercial. And I can just echo what Councilman Beal was just talking about. I mean, I think if I would have looked at things 3 years ago, I would have said, oh boy, things are really leaning towards multifamily, and everybody wants to live in a townhouse or a condo or an apartment, and single-family houses are going away, and at that same point, I would have probably said, maybe in 15, 20 years, we can start reducing office space because we're gonna have all this technology. But COVID kicked us into a different direction, and now we're finding that virtual private networks and access through the internet, that you can just access your files from home, from wherever. We have to think that office space use may not have as much of a draw anymore. Who wants to pay for all that rent when you can pay somebody to stay home but
Right.
still get the job done for you? So it's all to be determined on where this ends up going, obviously, but it was kind of our perspective on it. So we're trying to piggyback on this resolution for 124 to add that principally permitted use of single-family residence to the Conservation Commercial District.
So, this was a long time ago, I think. So what was it originally? It was residential, right?
So,
It
let me
was.
just be- I just
Who was it?
wanted-
Did I talk to, I was dealing with you back in the
Yeah,
day,
and I
right?
wanted
How many
back-
years ago was that?
About 7 going on 8.
Yeah, so, I mean, times have changed, right?
Times have changed.
Clearly.
Absolutely.
It was residential, then what did we do? We went
It was
to,
residential. If you'll recall, it was sat vacant for 7 years, actually.
and dilapidated too.
And it
Yeah.
had broken down,
Yep.
exactly. And I saw the opportunity.
Yeah, it was actually, there was a,
There was a
there was an
fire.
arson, case in
That's
that
correct.
building,
They
yeah.
tried to
Yeah.
burn it down.
Yeah, true.
But I had the thought, came before you guys, spoke to Barbara first, and, I said, hey, if this is good for the town, it'd be good for me. If you guys are in favor, we'll go
Sure.
forward, and you did. And I just really wanted to thank you guys for your service, but remember you well at the time, and Barbara, thank you always for being available.
So what did it get rezoned to?
To conservation commercial.
Oh, it did?
From
Yeah,
R20.
from our,
So it did, okay. So
Yeah.
when R20 to conservation commercial,
Which is the rest of that strip going up to Route 9.
yes.
Right.
That's why it matched it.
okay, all right, so we're not too far off here. So,
It's right on the corner.
so this,
Right.
now conservation commercial versus COP, is that the same zone?
No.
No, so the intent here, in this local law, there's two
Yeah.
portions of this local law. One is to add self-storage as
To
a permitted
COP.
use in the COP.
Right.
Right.
The second prong of this local law is to add single-family residence as a permitted use within the conservation commercial district. So we have a number of conservation commercial districts. That strip there, also along Route 9D is conservation commercial. And, the strip along Route 9D, you've got a couple of businesses, but you also have a lot of single-family residences that have been there, and the businesses that are there, a large number of them are actually single-family houses that were converted into
Right.
businesses over the years. So the thought was, here, rather than go back to residential, and, in the future, if it's a very busy location. It may not be necessarily the greatest location for a single-family house, but for the offices, the types of uses that are permitted in conservation commercial, they're very light type of uses. They also, one of the other key components in conservation commercial districts is there's wetlands in the area.
Right.
Which is basically the kind of the defining factor in the district. And so here, in some respects, this property has more in common with the conservation commercial district than it does with a typical R20 or R40 zoning district.
Right, so, reading the code, strategically located sites that have sensitive environmental features such as wetlands, floodplains, steep slopes, things like that, and there's wet areas
Wetlands
behind
there.
that, so it will be
Right.
consistent. I think that's why those other properties are probably conservation also. So with that in mind, it would be retaining its commercial, status, however, it would be permitting
no.
single-family,
Right, so the zone, in addition to permitting light commercial uses, would also permit single-family uses. Right now, a single-family use is not permitted in
Right.
those zones.
That's,
Right.
So if any existing house in that district had burned down, it could not be rebuilt.
Right.
It would have
So-
to go to a commercial use.
So in this particular use for this structure, I know that when we originally made the zone change to allow for commercial use, you were doing an office-type scenario. I think you were doing like PXs or something, or.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now, what type of commercial endeavor would be maintained on that property now? You still be doing the same type of business, or would there be?
So Yeah, you have a very good memory, that's correct.
Okay.
I serviced the military exchanges, and we did mostly office work there at the location because the need at the time. Times, of course, now have changed. I'm no longer using the building. I don't have
Okay.
use for it. I really can't afford to keep it.
Right.
Speaking of not letting things go vacant, right, I've had it up for sale for almost a year now, and I've had really zero opportunities commercially come.
Okay.
But I've had several residential.
Right.
So that's what we're looking at right now, is a 100% residential use.
Okay.
For the current purchaser that
Sure.
doesn't buy it.
Yeah.
Now, this would be a single-family use?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many square feet is this?
It's about 2,400.
Okay.
2,600.
So it originally started out as a single-family dwelling.
It was
Right.
It was used for business purposes. Now we're reverting it back to a single-family dwelling use. I don't have an objection to that.
I don't either. Not at all.
Do we have any idea how many other locations are in the same predicament? I mean, once you set this as a precedent,
It is. But again, you know, so right now, I mean, we could get the totals for the public hearing, but
I'd like to see,
would
I'd like to see what the
say
totals
probably
are, because is it
I would
50, is
say
there 100, is
probably
it 10? How many?
50%, there's a lot of vacant property in the conservation commercial. And of the structures, I would hazard a guess to say that probably 50% are probably single-family residences.
And we've had a lot of interest in other properties as well, Al, but because of this, structure, code structure, they can't sell for residential.
I mean, this is probably the lightest, the least intensive use commercial or non-residential district. So this would be the least intensive use. It doesn't, the uses that are permitted in this zone are, for the most part, fairly compatible with residential type uses. Their retail, their office uses, so restaurant, food service.
Well, like you mentioned on 9D, there's quite a few homes that
Sure.
are, you have Chelsea Garage Door, you have,
Right.
quite a few
We
that,
also have quite a few large lots on 9D that have
Right.
been sell for years, but due to the flood zone and
Ex-
primarily
ex-
wetlands,
exactly.
their usable space is so minute.
Limited,
You can get
yeah.
a business,
Right.
but we have a lot of people
Right.
calling wanting to
Yeah.
buy it for a home.
Exactly.
right,
And homes haven't been allowed. We even have one, I think it's over 6 acres, it straddles Old State Road,
mhm,
and there's where, on that side where a house could be, because the side facing 9D is so wet.
yeah.
So. if
There's
we added
limitations.
residential, we could actually
Right.
have some of these empty parcels become viable.
Right, and which would be good for the community.
Yes.
That's, I think that would be a tremendous asset to have people living in this house again.
If this amendment or this change allows us to occupy inventory that has not been occupied and gives us additional opportunities for housing inventory, I think it's a win-win. Again, there are some parallels here. We are, facing unprecedented times here post-COVID when we get to that point. We've seen significant changes in housing and supply and demand there. We've seen a decrease in commercial occupancy, right? This is a beautiful building, beautiful home. I
gorgeous.
certainly would not want to see
Love
it
it.
vacant again and falling into disrepair, which it
No.
was. You've done a great job bringing this
It
up
is.
to the standard that it's at.
I've always
And
loved this.
whatever I can do to support this, I will do.
Yeah.
So I have no objection.
It's an asset, just even driving by, it's an asset to look at it. I like it a lot, so, and again, I think it's a win-win for the community.
So if we go forward with this, we pass this and then set a
Public
So-
hearing in October, yes.
Right, so the process here, Resolution 201-124 is a resolution introducing the local law. Along with that is a full environmental assessment form. And then those documents would then be referred to county planning as well as to the planning board, and would set a public hearing for the second meeting in October.
so if we approve this tonight, all it does is move it forward to go on to the
Correct.
next. Okay.
All right, well, I'd like to make a motion to pass this, but I would like Mr.
Well, let's wait till we get to resolution section.
Oh, we have to
Yeah,
get out
yeah.
of, right, you're right.
We're still
But
on the
I-
public comment portion.
I do want to get, like Al had said, a list of the other properties that are affected.
Sure.
I like to have that if we're going to go forward with this for the 25th and October 25th, we'd like to have, like we just talked about, the list of the properties. I want to see how many are affected. I'm
Okay.
sure we have an,
That's a-
I'm sure we have an inventory of it.
Yeah, it's probably a simple email of properties, Barbara, I'm sure you have that also, so, thank you. And it would be valuable for the public hearing also, for the people, the residents to be aware of.
I just don't want this to be a one-off. I want it to be all-inclusive, so I want to see the number of properties that are affected.
Perfect.
A quick look at the zoning map, it looks like there's 4 CC areas in the town. The area where this property is, and then along the corridor
9D.
along 9D, and then out by the castle on 376. And I thought I saw it, maybe it's
Middle
only
Bush
3.
Road. Oh, isn't
I
Middle
don't
Bush
think
Road
there's
there?
one on Middle Bush, right, Jim? There's not one
Is
here.
there one on Middle Bush Road?
No.
No.
You know,
Oh,
we're-
yeah, no, it's on Myers Corners, it's on.
That's what I mean,
that
Maya,
one.
sorry, yeah. But you'll get us that information
Sure.
and send it to us.
I think there were other areas prior to rezone. I think that when we did the Route 9 corridor and the 9D corridor, we
Yeah, I think
simplified the
I
process.
think a couple of them probably went to neighborhood business.
Yeah, I mean, these areas have wetlands adjacent to them, and the again, we're looking at conservation
Conservation.
zoning here for both of these parcels. And I'm reading the code here on conservation, commercial and conservation office park, and both of these zones are sites that have sensitive environmental features adjacent to these parcels. And you know, for this particular structure that happens to be located on the corner of Losey Road and Myers Corners Road, the rear, if you look in the rear, it's wet all back there to Alpine Commons, and I believe that was why originally this was a conservation zone. This particular Victorian-style house, to me, is a natural fit for a return to single-family occupancy.
I love this house. I always have. I love the plan. It's very nice.
And that's
So
going to be the
good luck.
best interest of the town, to ensure that it's occupied and cared for.
Yeah, honestly.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
And interest in doing this. Yeah, appreciate it. Any other, comments from the public? No. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I'll make a
to-
motion to close. public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is for some discussions. We have two that Barbara wants to present to us. Come on up.
The first one, speaking of CC zones, this is the castle out on Route 376. It has basically been primarily empty for years. There has been an antique Cadillac dealer that's, I don't believe they're in business right now, and yet we have a lot of their items in the front. So I have someone here with me tonight who'd like to purchase it and use it for indoor use, and I think he should really talk about what he'd like.
Sure.
Tom Russellbeck?
And we did have a conversation a couple of weeks ago or a month ago about this
Yes.
gentleman who had expressed interest in bringing his business to the castle. And the odd situation was that the use, which he'll explain, the use that he wants to do is not allowed, correct? Yeah, so,
So, yeah, my name's Tom Rassico, and I do own TR Welding and Fabrication. I am looking to move to 1090. I need a bigger space. I'm looking for a text amendment to that, so I can move my welding and fabricating shop over there. That's basically what I'm here for, to try and see if I can get in there. I like the building. I think it's cool. I think it could be something really great again. So.
no one will ever miss your business if, come to the castle. And your work, and I thought this was interesting because your work, you would be doing inside.
Yes.
So there wouldn't be any external
Right.
impacts,
Right.
whereas right now, the previous business, which, the Nicodemus family, for a long time was restoring Cadillacs, which is great, But to me, restoring cars and repairing vehicles out, you know, having them outside is more of an impact than what you wanted to do on the inside, yet your use wasn't necessarily allowed in the zone.
Yeah, so,
So what do you do with all the lifts and everything else inside? You're gonna have to reconvert everything inside because, like, a lot of work to do in there to
there is a little bit of work that has to be done. Electric for me has to be done. It's not, you know, ready for my machines. But that's not too big of a deal to do in there. And then there is a little bit of there's a crossway that goes across the top of it that would prevent me from bringing some of my machines into the back part of the building, so that would have to come out. But it's a wood structure. I had Mark Day over there with me looking at it, so, and it looks like it could come out, so.
and you'd be using the entire building? Because there's another business, I guess it's a dog business or whatever in there.
I want them to stay.
Okay.
You know, they've been there, you know, I'm really looking for that, where the Cadillac restoration, place was.
And all the Cadillacs that are currently there will be removed, I assume?
I hope so.
Because there's a lot of them out there.
Or otherwise I get a scrap bin and start throwing them in there.
Okay.
So, because they're no use to me, so. But,
You could weld them all together,
you will.
Yeah, scrap.
stack them right up.
Yeah, stack them up.
So, looking at that building, and I remember it was a nightclub at one point, it was like a whole bunch of different things, and I think I was in there way back in the day, before I was married.
Everybody knows
You
that.
know.
Everybody knows he was there? Oh, so that's irrelevant.
There's pictures out there.
So, the footprint of the building, about what percentage would you occupy? 50%, 75%, 25%?
I'd probably be, like 65%, maybe a little more.
And then the dog place would be the other remainder? or-
Yeah.
So it would be fully occupied if you were in there?
Yeah, there is an upstairs above that dog,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of space in that building.
I've never
They
been
hit
upstairs.
it upstairs and downstairs on that.
Yeah, so, you know, Barbara, what would be, in a situation like this, I mean, would there be, this be a text amendment also to allow for, what would it be considered?
So we would, I'm sorry, we would need the fabrication added to the CC zone as well. If that's approved, you would need an amended site plan to add the use. And with that, because the landscaping is fallen in quite disrepair, I'm sure you will.
Oh, yeah, I want to,
He's talked about dressing up the
Yes.
building, so this is a plus for us on 376, because it's very visible, especially when you come down Myers.
Yes.
We're looking at this and it looks a little like a junkyard, so.
Parking lot and everything else is
please
kind of,
need to see it cleaned
I
up.
think it would be nice to see grass in the front, nice grass and trees, just nice. I like it. I like the style of it. I wish.
It is different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, and everybody knows it too. You know,
Yes.
you drive around in here, and you see it there.
there's the
Castle,
castle.
yes.
So you would be buying the building? Is that
Yes.
what- Okay, so you'd be the owner, and
I'd be alone, yeah.
we're talking to the landscaper right here. Yeah, I mean, I have no objection to that. To me, again, his use, and this is just my opinion, his use seems to be less impact than the existing
Absolutely.
use.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
and plus
I don't have
you
a
would take, you know, you would take pride in the fact that it's a castle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Dress it up.
Yeah, there's a moat for you, just in case,
Yeah, I don't think we need any more wetlands.
No, no. But I think it's a good idea. I thank you for taking the initiative,
Oh,
honestly. I think that's.
And what is that, COP or Conservation Commercial?
That's CC.
CC?
So
Okay.
if the board was in favor, since you're gonna have a public hearing on the CC zone, could that be added?
We can amend the resolution.
Sure.
Well,
No,
the one issue though is with respect to fabrication. Because the definition of fabrication in the code is actually very broad. And under this current schedule of uses, fabrication falls under manufacturing, fabricating, assembling, finishing, repair, brewing, and distilling. And right now, fabrication is only permitted in two zones, COP and AI.
And in fact, Jim and I have had this discussion. There are other fabrication, topics, industrial rankings that we'd like to consider, such as 3D printing. That is fabrication, right? Other light industrial sort of things. So we've talked about what we can
Our code is
do.
deficient in
Yeah.
that we do not have a separate definition for what's other municipalities refer
That's
to as
correct.
light industrial.
Yeah.
So for our purposes, any industrial use is considered to be a heavy industrial use and is only, basically is only permitted on Airport Drive in the, or in the COP district. So we only have perhaps 25 parcels in the entire town where that use is currently permitted.
Well, how far from
This
the
not
airport
being
is the
one.
castle?
Well, you go down 376, so
Yeah.
it's a few miles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Well,
So,
I was
so
just-
I think what, you know, Dick and I had this
Yeah.
discussion because it came up in the context of, you know, possibly, you know, looking at redoing, you know, large retail or things like that. But there are, you know, smaller, more high-tech type, industrial,
Right.
you know, facilities that are wholly enclosed, that, you know, don't generate smoke, don't generate, you know, the typical, the reason for zoning for industrial uses is because of the adverse impacts associated with the business. So for purposes of our code, a steel mill would be treated exactly the same as his
Right.
welding operation.
And so,
You know, or a chemical refinery.
right.
Which makes no sense, but that's the way our code was drafted and really hasn't been updated. But, you know, there are a lot more smaller manufacturing, you know, facilities that really don't have, you know, very many adverse impacts.
Yeah. And with that in mind, you know, it's also with, and I've talked with, you know, Ron Hicks and others, is that will enable us to bring more jobs to our community with that sort of light industrial, you know, and it's not smokestack stuff, right? It's within the confines of a building, and there are even artists, you know, that, the Chinese
Right.
artist that had, you know, that had a 3D printing, he could have employed 10 people here. He went over to someplace in the Grange because the code was more favorable.
Yeah, we have a provision in our code dealing with, you know, artisan shops.
Yeah.
But the problem is that, you know, you're limited toward, you know, decorative, more or
Right.
less decorative type arts. You know, I mean, a welder is, it really is an artisan, it's an art, it's really more art than science. And, but, you know, I mean, and there are
Right.
artists, you know, who
Exactly.
weld, you know, sculptures and things. But, you know, if you're gonna do it in a commercial context, our code doesn't permit that. And, you know, the artisan who would wanna go and, you know, make decorative welding pieces is permitted in the CC. You know, but, you know, if you're gonna work on fire equipment and, you know, fix dumpsters for Royal, you're not. I mean, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
How many people would you employ, do you think?
I have 5
5 right now?
right now. I'm
Okay.
looking for more.
Oh,
The facility I'm in is just not
Good.
fitting it, so.
Thank you.
I think you did the welding at our front gate on Wheeler Hill, right? He does an excellent job.
Well, I mean, full disclosure, he welded the steel from the World Trade Center at the
Yeah.
Sergeant Palmatier Memorial, and there were very specific protocols that need to be followed
Yep.
to do that work, and we greatly appreciate how he took that so seriously. So, that said, I mean, I don't want to be biased here, but the point is, how can we make our code work in the favor of someone that does this type of
I think what we
fabrication?
would have to do, again, it would be a text amendment, but we'd have to generate a definition for, in essence, a light industrial.
Yeah, that's what I prefer.
A light industrial use, which would be permitted in the CC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe in the highway business. You know, I don't think it necessarily be appropriate for neighborhood business, but certainly in COP, and AI.
Well, maybe even Stan wants a road barrier in front of his house, so maybe that, you know, as well.
But, so that's the thing, is we can look at some of the other municipalities and try to
Right.
come up with
Right.
you know, a good definition, but I think that would be the best fix, because
Yeah.
it addresses more than this particular issue, and I think it is.
And
an
also,
issue
you know,
that-
maybe we work with Ron, you know, Hicks as well,
Yeah.
because he's, you know, we've had a little bit of discussion, and, you know, we're talking about, you know, and I've talked with the school superintendent, you know, Dr. Dwight Bonk, you know, about some more intern programs, but also how our young students can, can be getting other jobs. So this sort of thing, I mean, it can even help Tom, in working, because we've all been talking about getting VOTech back into the schools.
Sure,
Well,
I
this
mean-
can be a big plus, for
And
that.
there's a big need in that.
I don't think
in that
anybody can
market
criticize us.
for,
No.
NC machiners and, metalwork, I mean, like,
Right.
HVAC, HVAC work.
Exactly, exactly.
Guys who, are tin knockers and put together, HVAC systems. I mean, that's another use, I guess, so, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of businesses that fall into that niche that, we could
That we
capture.
need.
Yeah.
No, absolutely, it's a big
So do
area.
we have a number of other businesses that are in a similar situation in the town that we're aware of? So once we okay, or if we were to okay this, right, we just want to make sure that, again, it's not a one-off, it's for all businesses going forward, right?
What would be the businesses, like Jim said, if we create a definition of light industrial, so people
Right.
like HVAC and others then would have more opportunities to come into the town with their commercial business that now get prohibited.
Yeah.
Other
Right.
than AI,
Right.
again, like Jim said, there aren't that many businesses along Airport Drive that are still open.
And many have left the town or not considered us because of this, from my
So unlike
discussion,
other
so.
towns, we have very few places that businesses like this can come into.
Right.
Airport Drive again is really all built out other than the end, which is in front of the planning board. And most of it is built out with people, with tenants. And then CLP is a tough zone, is really just what we're talking about with the railroad buildings, So we want to create more space, and in something like this, I think it works, especially in this particular place, the castle, it's set far off road. You won't know what he's doing, so it won't be an eyesore outside,
Right.
there won't be outdoor storage. The building then becomes more attractive.
You might even be able to get a tenant for upstairs.
So how do we create that
Seriously,
definition in the
yeah.
code?
Definitely thinking about it,
We'll
I have to see what it would take to.
Kick it around
Yeah.
internally. We'll
Yeah.
circulate to the board.
Okay.
Hopefully try to have something by next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I have some things to add, but I think some of the other municipalities, and then working with the county, I think we can get it. Tom, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Barbara,
I'm
thank
not too
you.
proud to steal.
Yeah.
Remember, it's in the public domain, so it's
not
not.
plagiarism.
It's not plagiarism.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, though. And there's a couple things to look at here, whether you do a text amendment to the conservation commercial or whether you create a new zone.
Well, I don't think we necessarily need a new zone. I think this is, I think the use that is considered, I mean, that's the other option is, that the castle piece is kind of a little bit, kind of a one-off right there. I mean, because that's not as environmentally challenged as the surrounding pieces.
Yeah.
I think that particular lot got in because the rest of the
Right.
rest of the parcels out there were CC. But no, I think that for, highway business, maybe, some of the other areas, a use, as we discussed, would be appropriate, so.
Okay.
We could look at possibly, maybe doing an overlay zone, but, I think just a straight use, at least, short-term, and permitting it maybe in HB and CC, would be appropriate.
Permitting it as a special use permit, and
Right.
we would create criteria, so it couldn't just go anywhere.
Exactly.
Right.
We'd have to have X amount of acres perhaps, setback from the road, no wetlands right around it to protect the wetlands. So we can come up with something that would fit quite a few parcels, but still be regulated.
That's
Right,
exactly what I'm
That's
looking
the
for.
wisest
Right.
thing to
Yep.
do.
That's right.
Yeah, that is the wisest.
Sure.
So Barbara, talk about decks.
Okay, so the next one. So the next one is a refund. So the Murphys came in and opened up a building permit for a new deck, which they
Right.
were hoping to build. They paid for the building permit, and then they paid for the square footage charge. And due to COVID and the extremely exorbitant high prices of wood, and the lack of being able to even get some connectors and things you'd need, they're putting their project off. And what they're seeking is just the square footage charge, since they didn't build the deck.
How much is it?
It's, I'm sorry. It's $147. They're not looking for the
Yeah,
permit fee back.
it's
They knew
it's a
that was
no-brainer.
non-refundable, but since they didn't build the deck,
Yeah,
Move to refund.
second.
Definitely.
Okay, a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Jim, you get to Mr. Paoloni. Right, Joe? So we
I
don't
thought
miss
had a
another
written-
resolution.
We'll have to look. I thought we had a written policy on this someplace, but we'll have to.
Okay. Okay, we'll move into the resolutions. The first one is Resolution 2021-124, which we have previously discussed. This is the resolution introducing proposed law, I'm not sure what number it is, entitled Amending Uses Under the Zoning Code in the Conservation Commercial District and Conservation Office Park, district. Again, this is what we've discussed here. Again, Jim, do you have any other explanation beyond what we've already discussed?
No, not really. So the process here is this law gets introduced. We set a public hearing date. Joe, what do we have for public?
1025.
10/25. And then this gets referred to Dutchess County Planning and to the Planning Board for their review and comment. This is the town board's the only agency on this, so for seeker purposes, there's no coordinated review. It's just, it's a type 1 action, but this is, the town board is the only agency that's going to review this. So that's about it.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is one we do annually at this time, 2021-125. This is a resolution adopting certificate of base percentages, current base proportions, and certificate of adjusted base proportions from the New York State Office of Real Property Services. This is what our town cap assessor has recommended. We have those here in the packet. Any further?
No, so this just split the homestead
Yes.
versus non-homestead? Yeah, no issues. I'll move it.
Yeah,
Bill.
I'll second it, just on the question, base rate proportions, homestead versus non-homestead set forth by the state. Have there been any significant changes to the homestead versus non-homestead base rate proportions? Do we know?
I don't know.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
I think they're minimal,
We don't have,
That's kind of the whole point of it.
Right.
yeah, we don't really have control over what the state sets those ratios. However, I know Joe just loves talking about this, but for those that don't understand what I'm talking about, the non-homestead parcels, which are the commercial parcels, pay a higher tax rate than the homestead parcels, which are the residential parcels. And that particular ratio is set forth by the state through the base rate proportions. I know we've had some good debate about this up here. I'm not going to do that right now. And as long as there's no significant changes, which I don't believe there are, I mean, we have no choice but to support this because the state's mandating it.
Okay, so we have a motion and
and a
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-126, resolution setting a public hearing on proposed benefit assessment rolls for special improvement districts and special improvement areas for fiscal year 2022, and to hear any objections thereto. Again, this is setting public hearing on this proposal.
Move.
So the public hearing is on the 25th as well for this one?
Yeah, so
Yes, I think so.
It
I
says
think
it
so,
in
yeah.
the-
Yeah, I think it
25th.
is.
in the
Yeah,
third whereas.
25th,
yeah.
yep.
Yep.
Okay,
So somebody moved
motion
it?
and second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-127, resolution setting a public hearing on proposed budgets, O&M charges, water and sewer rates, and rents for special improvement districts and special improvement areas for fiscal year 2022, and to hear any objections thereto.
Move.
I'll second it.
This is
Okay,
the
mo-
25th also?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, that's 25th also. Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-128, proclamation of Columbus Day as Italian-American Heritage Day in the town of Wappinger.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-129. This is a resolution appointing the deputy building inspector. We've had discussions before. Barbara, do you want to say anything additional at this point?
So Miss Betty that's here with us tonight, has come in, we've had 2 interviews. We've already gone through civil service, so they've approved her application. She comes with a strong fire background. She's finishing her degree in emergency management. She's been a firefighter for 21 years, and she has a good handle on the NFPA code, something that is going to be
Needed.
really good in our office.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Sarah did I
All
told
the
Sarah she didn't
background
need
check,
to
everything?
come tonight just for 1 or 2 items, but
Yep.
she did all the work with the Dutchess County, got all that approved, went through, also interview. I sat on the second interview as well, so.
How do you say your
I'm certainly in favor.
first name?
Angel.
Angel. Okay. I,
I'll make it easy and not do the whole French diesel stuff.
But,
it's French?
It's actually Angel, but I just tell people it's Angel.
and,
Well, I paused for the Italian-American resolution before, because I'm Irish, so I'm glad that my
Well, thank
colleagues, the Columbus Day one, so. But Angel, after seeing our banter for the last hour and 15 minutes, do you still want to work here?
I don't know, she's pretty steady, Bill, I don't know.
Yeah, I hope, it sounds like you're going to fit right in with the team here.
Yeah.
And you have an impressive resume, and as you know, it's very difficult for anyone to hire anyone today. So I think we're lucky to have this opportunity to have someone with such a background join our team. Certainly, I'll make the motion that we authorize this hire.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays
Welcome.
or abstentions?
And
Seeing none,
thank
motion
you.
passed. Welcome on board.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Barbara, for your patience in getting us to this point.
Angel, that's it, Angel. Got it.
Okay, next item is Resolution 2021-130. This is a resolution authorizing transfer of funds, excuse me, from $40,000 from unallocated balance, excuse me. And this is, I think, largely for Jim Horan's fees.
Supervisor's getting choked up
Yeah,
over this.
really, I'm like, are you okay
Jim, I don't
over
know
here?
what's going on here. but-
Compared to what I get paid in private practice compared to this, I mean, that's why I'm choking up.
Well, Jim, if we don't approve this resolution, tonight will be your last night. So,
I support it. It's all justified, backed up by a lot of work.
So can we see, one of the things I like to see is, what are your year-to-date actuals on that line, and is there pending expenses to be paid? Because last time I brought this up at the meeting on September 13th, and at the time, we had about $20,000 still left in it, so I know this is gonna cover that 20 plus another 20 on top of that.
Yeah, this should
do
be
you
out
have-
to the end of the
Yeah,
year.
yeah, this is the end of the year. I think it takes it up to 130,000 on that line.
I guess
And we'll have
I'm looking
more.
at, I'd like to see what are some of the expenses for, because again, we don't see it because we have a controller that does that, so.
No,
was
I
hoping
see
for
it
the-
all. I review it all. So, I mean, if you still want to see it, I'd be happy to share it with you. It's a lot.
So we break down all our vouchers per
Yeah.
fund. So our vouchers are broken down by, A fund, B fund, water, highway.
Yep.
Sewer, and then the escrows for rezoning applications, planning board, those are all billed separately. So this is just an appropriation for the A fund expenses, which would be general town board and, things related to parks and properties. B fund would be zoning matters, things of that sort. So we have, budgetary appropriations in the other lines.
I know you have in a couple different lines, but this is specifically for the A fund, so.
Right.
Are you underrunning the B fund? Do you know?
I would
So if we looked at a
think
total.
so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and when it comes in, then Judith reviews it against all the escrow accounts and other, funds and, and so we fine tune that. And then I, work with Judith on looking it over before she goes back to Jim to make any line changes. And then before it's signed, I get it one more time to sign off.
Okay, so you're,
So
in
we have a
addition to
thorough
Frederick,
process
so in addition to Frederick looking at it, you're also looking at it?
ad nauseum.
Dick
Okay.
looks at it all the time.
Okay.
So does Judith.
Well, Judith's the one that nips at his heels, so. I don't do that.
Well, to be fair, I will say that we have continued to be conservative on our budgeting
Right.
for the professionals. If you look over a 5+ year period, you'll see a steady decrease in the appropriated line items, which has been a way for us to improve the checks and balances. I don't have an objection to authorizing this additional expense. However, when we get into the budget process,
we'll
we're going
look
to
at
take
it.
a look at this line and see what the realistic number will be.
I think part of it, again, to explain a little bit of it, is that during this past year, Jim, incurred a number of expenses related to COVID and the various proclamations, resolutions, and expenses that we had. So, that is one of the reasons that it went above what was in the past, lines. I think this year in the budget that you'll see me presenting, we have cut it back down from that particular, high amount of this year. So
Okay.
it's back to more
So,
of a
so a lot of it could be
historical line.
related to COVID, so I
Yeah,
understand.
and a
Okay.
couple other things,
I
but
mean,
that's what it is.
also a lot of it was related to some of the stuff we did with parks,
Yeah,
and,
right.
so that type of stuff comes out of
Yeah.
most of the construction.
And hopefully some of that stuff is a one-time, so
Yeah,
I
so
understand you taking the budget.
I've
down a
judged
little
it
bit.
back,
Okay,
from what it is. You'll see that when we
okay, fair
Gives you
enough.
present the
Budgets.
tentative budget on Thursday.
Right.
I knew you had another set of eyes on it, but I just wanted to ask Jim the question, so.
Two set of eyes.
There's two sets. Okay.
With Judith,
So
yeah.
I move it? Somebody get a
Second.
second?
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2021-131. This is the acknowledgement of the correspondence log.
Move it.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. So the next, where's my, so the next is items for special consideration. The first one is the JCAP grant, for the court and the application. Jim, you're familiar with it, I am too, but go ahead.
Yeah, so this is an application to the Justice Court Assistance Program. These are certain funds that are available from Office of Court Administration to the Justice Court for capital improvements for the operation of the court, software, sometimes security systems. I'm not sure. I don't have a note here as to what they were applying for this year.
Well, I think it was for the general office with the respect, they have a lot of new requirements with respect to the bail reform.
Okay.
So the processing of that and
Okay.
some equipment and
Right, yeah.
machinery
So that's right,
is
that's what
related to that.
I thought it was. So, I mean, that's the typical grant process. It's up to $30,000 is the maximum.
Yeah.
And we need to do this before October 7th, so they.
Need to get it
okay.
in, yeah.
Okay.
And the court's been, under our previous clerk, very successful in
Yeah.
getting
Yeah, they
JCAP.
have been.
We talk about FEMA success, but they've been
Yeah.
very
They
successful.
did, they did the air conditioning system. They did the
Okay.
first splits in the court before the rest of the building.
Some of the security system.
And then the security systems, I know they got, they had the security barrier that was up there. They got the funding for that. So they've been, pretty successful. I think they got
Yeah.
some money to do the room for the prisoners.
Yeah,
That's right,
that's
too.
correct.
Over the years, they've been,
Yeah, Cheryl, it was Cheryl Haight that handled all these grants in past years, so, I mean, she deserves a shout out
Yeah.
now. I'm glad to see that
Absolutely.
the tradition is continuing, that we're applying for this funding. Do we need an action on this?
We have to approve so I can sign it
right,
on
right,
so-
my behalf.
then, town clerk's gotta get them a
Submit the
certified copy.
application.
All right, so I'll move that we
They
authorize,
just need a certified copy.
I'll second it.
move we authorize the supervisor and the town clerk to proceed on the grant application. I move that the supervisor be authorized to sign the grant application and be submitted to the
Yeah,
town
and we
clerk.
have a resolution.
We have
Oh,
a
I'm sorry, I
resolution,
didn't know
and I
this was a
second it.
resolution.
There is,
Right.
well, Jim got it to us
Okay,
after the
Right.
package
so I'll just
went
move
out.
the resolution then.
Move the resolution.
There's a-
Yeah, and that's basically what it says.
It's on the
Yeah,
desk.
there.
You have a copy of it, Joe? The resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
Okay, so there's a motion,
In a second.
motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
Oh, okay.
Seeing none. And then, I've, and Chris Thomas is the one that's taken over, as you recall. And
Yes.
she's been doing a great job. So when they come and present, she will present along, I think, with maybe Judge Kitchen on the budget.
Other-
Sure.
Okay.
And some other of the things that they're doing. But you know, they're working pretty hard, you know, over there, because now as the courts have opened back up, there's long lines of people
Sure.
coming in, so thank you. It's much appreciated. The next two items, what, you know, we had discussed kind of in, you know, three of them, you know, that we wanted to do, and recognizing some of the heritage, and this is, we passed the one recognizing the Italian heritage, which was great. In addition, I have two, you know, that are, one recognizing Hispanic Heritage Month, and as I think you're all, you know, familiar, you know, this is actually ongoing right now between September 15th through October, you know, 15th, you know, so that's the first resolution. You have a copy in the package. Basically, what actually I found interesting is I've gone through, and if none of you else have, you should all go through the new census numbers. And if you don't have it, I can email to you the census numbers. But what the 2020 census shows, in addition to our population growth, you know, in the town up to 28,200, I believe, which is around 1,000 increase. The Hispanic, you know, population for this first one is now close to 4,500 in our town. 16% of our population, so very important, you know, peoples, you know, that are here. So that's what the first resolution is about. You know, that's, you know, I don't know if I need to read it all into the record because it's 2 pages here, but
No, I'll move
No.
that, I'll move
I just think it's
the
good to know.
proclamation identifying Hispanic Heritage Month in the town of Wappinger.
Second.
okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is also recognizing our indigenous peoples in the town of Wappinger. We've been, you know, doing a fair amount more, you know, to try to get there. Joey, we still need to get the final quote on the statute, right? So remind me to do that. But this one is a proclamation relating to Indigenous Peoples' Day, and in our particular case, I'm saying in here, just reading part of it, is that the indigenous peoples have lived and flourished in America's most especially New York region, including Wappinger, for thousands of years. The town board recognizes and values the vast contributions made to the United States, and especially to the greater Wappinger community. And I go on to say that the town board recognizes the responsibility to honor our town's indigenous roots, history, tradition, culture, and contributions. And then, you know, calling for, again, the second Monday in October also to be recognized as Indigenous Peoples, you know, Day for our, you know, Wappinger, you know, heritage.
So we are the town of Wappinger, obviously by namesake. I think we do need to recognize Indigenous Peoples' Day. I do have reservations, though, however, about Indigenous Peoples' Day being the same day as Columbus Day, because I feel like there is an effort to cancel out Columbus Day, which I don't think is appropriate. That said, though, I do believe it's important that we recognize Indigenous Peoples' Day in the town of Wappinger, as long as we can equally recognize Columbus Day.
So in the resolution, I say that, you know, we celebrate, promote the awareness, and designate the second Monday of the month as Indigenous Peoples' Day concurrently with Columbus Day.
Good, and I support this. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Motion in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion pass. Okay, any new business will go into executive session shortly
wanna
on
do the-
contracts and personal matters, but,
We want to do the one here for the contract for the 2,900.
oh, yes, sorry. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, so we have, I'd like to make a motion, we have a change order we want to request. It's from a company called Nicky D's. What they're doing is they're updating the fields. If you're not familiar, over at Challenger Field, they've done a lot of the work there for not only the ADA building, but also a number of other changes they're doing over there. And one of the things they're working on is the electric. Right now, they're out there doing service for the electrical area. There's an add-on that we're trying to do here tonight. It's for the actual street lights they have there at the park. The timer does not work, so while they're out there, it does make sense to go ahead and have them do the work at the same time. Otherwise, you've got to get another electrician to come back, et cetera. So while they're there, let them do the work. The cost is $2,990, and I make a motion that we go ahead and approve that and get that moving forward, again, while they're out there. 'Cause
Is
it's
this
a-
effectively, Jim, a change order then?
It would be a change order.
Yeah. So-
Actually, while they're out there, if they could see if there's any, one of the questions that's come up in the past was regarding cable service out there. And Cablevision had said, or cell service out there, internet.
I
But
would love for them to do
Cablevision
that.
had said that they would run, a drop somewhere into the site, if, there was provisions in the conduit to do it. And I know those conduits for the electric, for the lighting are underground, so I don't know if, if they could, identify perhaps, if there's any pole or anything like that out there. Cablevision said that they would do the
Yeah,
run.
they did.
But they just, they needed to know what the facilities out there, so if they're looking at the electric and, the electric comes off of Robinson, so. that was
Yes,
the
I've been
issue,
working on
'cause
it
was
for a
more
long
than-
time, trying to get wireless out there because they have none, especially with Challenger Field. You need somebody who's going to be able to use a cell phone, God forbid, there's any kind of emergency out there. So I'm not sure how we proceed on that. Certainly we want to do this because this is electrical.
Sure.
But how do you, Jim, how do we go out there? Because they can probably dig a trench.
No, that was,
Has to
the
go on a
question
pole.
was there a
Space in
pole?
Right.
Or
you
was
need a
there any
pole.
space in the existing? By pole, what I mean is, typically when they run in a conduit,
Right.
they'll run an additional
Line.
Well,
or-
where
or
it's going
cables
from
or-
is going from basically the ADA building to the electrical box out there right behind the store. That's where the electric's going to go.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think it's going to go, I don't think there's any way to go from the store out to the street, which is really where you need to go.
Okay.
But I like the idea, but there's just,
Maybe ask Central Hudson. They might be able to give you some feedback because they do that.
I know Dick and I have tried this many times to try to get, cable service out there, et cetera, at least to go
I
into the.
just-
Maybe ask
Yeah,
them because they have
Right.
done it.
Well, I
They-
have.
They rent
I asked
those
them,
poles.
I had a meeting with the new district
Maybe.
manager that's responsible for the town the other day, because, Brian is going to Poughkeepsie, so, I had a meeting, and this is one of the topics, including lighting, LED lighting and so forth. So they're going to send a person out there,
That's what I mean,
and I'll
yeah.
remind them about the cable as
Yeah,
well.
because this, it'd be a great opportunity
Yeah.
to get out there now.
So hopefully.
But anyway, the motion on the table is for $2,990 to go ahead for this change order to get the
Second.
timer
I'll
set.
second it. And Steve, is this the part that you said they were able to get last meeting?
Sorry?
Is this the part you said they were able to get at the last meeting, the timer?
That was for Spook Hill.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is second.
all right.
This is a motion to approve
Excuse
a
me.
change order, for the, what do we call the light switch box, is it what?
They call it street lighting controls, what they called
Street
it.
lighting controls. So motion to approve a change order to the existing contract for the street lighting controls in the amount of $2,999.
And seconded.
Okay, so there's a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed.
Thank you,
Okay.
board, appreciate
So
it.
we do need to get Wi-Fi out on that site somehow, because if the cell service isn't that good, right?
It's terrible. out
Yeah.
there.
Well, the
God
other
for-
option is talk to Verizon.
Yeah, well, the 5G's coming, and it's probably sitting on top of the pole out on Robinson Lane. So there is a hotspot on that pole on the corner.
I believe
Yes, that's correct. There
You
is a
can't
hot,
reach-
there is a
You
hot
can't
spot.
reach the Challenger Field, though, it's too
Correct.
far away,
Yeah.
I believe
so.
Optimum has something there.
New
Optum
Optimum does.
Maltese, yeah.
No, I think Optum, I think that they might have I think we looked at it once. My recollection was that was their, repeater or hotspot up there.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
there is
know
an
about
Optimum,
the-
there is an Optimum hotspot on that pole, but it
Yeah.
can't reach, it's too
Yeah.
far away to hit it from the Challenger
Correct.
Field.
Correct.
So we should have a conversation though, because from a public
That's
safety
important.
standpoint, if you don't have cell
Right.
service, you can do an emergency call over Wi-Fi, or you could, once 5G lands, they probably have 5G assets out there on that pole. That would be a mini cell site. So we'll look at that, because that's a valid point.
should
We
have
have folks
that
that
at
have
all
developmental
parks.
disabilities playing on that
You know?
field.
God forbid you have an
we
emergency.
have an emergency and we can't get
What do you
cell
do?
We
service.
should consider doing this on
And
all the parks.
We've been looking at this
With
for probably
children.
about a year and a half, I think. And I know Dick and I have been looking at this.
Well,
We're
the
trying to
other
get
thing
out
you
there.
could do is a hard line, old school copper line to the concession stand and
believe
have a
there is.
landline.
Yeah,
There's a telephone out there.
Does it work?
Okay, well, we'll look into it
but
again.
that's something
now-
we need to look at for all our parks.
I
especially
do
if
appreciate
they
your
have a
support, because we've been trying to push this thing forward for a year and a half
Yeah.
now, and
All right,
it's
we'll
needed.
talk offline.
Great,
Right.
thank you
I'm
very
just trying
much.
to get the meeting to go to 11.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get
I'm
at the
like-
end.
I'm looking, like,
No,
So it's,
Sorry,
Dick,
what are you
there is
guys
one more,
doing?
there is one more thing. So, I know you put this in the package here, so legal notice, special meeting of the Grinnell Library, Public Library District, so there is a vote coming up on October 5th. It's from 10:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Grinnell Library, so I just want to remind people to go out and vote.
Yeah, not a lot of people know about that.
Well,
Put it on the
and,
website.
The trustees,
It's October
Is it on the
5th.
website?
is to increase the budget?
Well, the budget gets
budget and the
approved.
trustees.
The trustees, there's 3 folks running for the 3 positions, I believe.
4.
Four.
Oh, there's 3 running for 4 positions?
There's
And the
4
one that
trustees
gets the
running.
Oh, 4 running for 4 positions.
They serve for 3 years.
But folks need to know that it's a public library district, and we have a right to vote, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
and, you know, I think also that, you know, they do have the budget out there, so there's a lot of worthy things in the budget, but also since we are required to strictly stick to the tax levy cap, you know, and, you know, if, what is it, 60%, Bill? If they get 60% of the
Correct,
vote,
it's
then they
They
can
can
break
do
the
whatever
cap.
they want.
So
I'm not
again,
sure how that
everybody
works.
just needs to understand what the budget is and vote on it. You know, I know turnout has been low in the past, and we hope, you know, we support the, you know, Grinnell Library, you know, so.
Right. Well, this town authorized the public library district to be
Right.
created
Yeah.
a number of
One
years
of-
ago.
yeah.
And, I mean, that was when we learned more about libraries than we ever
And
wanted to
other
learn.
communities have real problems, right, Steve, with public libraries?
Well, that's a 414, I think, out there.
Anyway, so,
They don't
yeah,
have
yeah, thanks, Al, for
Maybe-
It's not a
reminding him on
district.
that.
Oh, right,
Maybe we
Blue
can have it on our
Grange.
website too,
Yeah,
that there's the
sure.
the vote.
I was involved in that one, too.
Maybe
Okay.
Tom
So,
Bell
any
can put
other
it
new
out there.
business? If not, I have a motion to go into executive session
make
to
that motion.
discuss contract personnel matters. Hopefully, we'll be
Second.
brief. Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
What did you just say? It'll be brief?
I'm gonna make sure you
tried to sneak that in
get
there.
out of here.
I just want to make sure we got that in the minutes.
Today is my grandson's birthday, so I need to get home.